Where are we going? These are the fundamental questions. We are looking to understand the nature of our existence. This is what this book really does get into. It's not particularly soft and gentle. It's not too, what we say, fluffy in a sense. What it is, it's really in keeping with the nature of the world. That it really gets in tune with the world in which we live. It's about how nature and us interact. If we're on the same wavelength, if we're harmonized with nature, then the world will become yet more beautiful, and so will we. But on the other hand, if we allow this sort of negative intent to cloud our reason, then the earth suffers as well, as we know well what's going on. Unfortunately, what you do to the world would do back to us. The world can live without us. The earth doesn't need us. Yes. We have to remember that. We can become extinct like many species before. The earth will carry on and the earth will continue to be beautiful. What we would have left is really our spirit. That would remain because our consciousness will continue in one form or another. So really, that's the key. This book can really help you move on, evolve. And evolve itself is an interesting word, because if you take the first four letters of evolve in reverse, what does it spell? Love. That's right. So that's what we're seeking to do. Tap into the real essence of love. But love needs to be built on a foundation of a certain quality, and that quality is inner stillness and peace, and more so a balanced emotional energy. In fact, my friend Carol here, she's a teacher herself, she wrote the foreword for me, and she quoted a friend of hers who spoke of balanced emotional content is created through conscious intent, with a deep knowing that anything is possible. We are powerful beings of creation who are here at this time for exactly that purpose, to create peace within as well as peace without. And I found that very profound and moving quote, and really it underpins what this story is about. It's about finding love. It's about getting back into tune with nature. It's about discovering who I was as an individual after a troubled start to life. It's, as I said, a healing journey, and I couldn't do it myself. I actually did need help. For me, it came in the form of a gift from the stars. A man who was born to this world that he didn't even want to be in. He once told me, I only came back to help you out because I could see you were so far off the path and just sliding into a world of illusion, the deception. The truth you think is there, he said, that's not the truth. It's a deception. And you have to peel away those layers of illusion to find the real truth. So I'd lost my way, very much so. His name was Pat. And that was the name we gave him. He didn't have a name. He'd never celebrated a birthday. And he'd been hidden away during the Second World War, so he didn't get conscripted. His parents were pacifists. And, you know, I was fortunate in that sense that he didn't become systemized. He didn't lose that special quality, that connection with nature that he had. He'd never been to school, I mean, I mentioned that. Uneducated. When people saw him, they considered him like almost like a retard, because he had peculiar mannerisms, because he'd never been educated or taught how to walk properly, how to interact, how to communicate. In fact, when he spoke, his communication skills were more akin to the natural world than civilized society. But then what is civilized? You know, we've only got to look at our own history to know, we have a lot to answer for in that respect. All the answers to all the questions you ever asked about the meaning of life is within yourself. This is what I would come to understand. But there's so much more, because as I allude back to my early years where I was a very troubled individual. If I went right back to the beginning, it's very easy to see where it all went wrong. In my infancy, thoughts were alien to me. Consciousness, feelings, and my intuitive connection with spirit enabled me to relate to the world in which I was. That's how we start. That consciousness that we brought from the previous existence is brought to that child in this world. We're here to learn, obviously, but we're also here to evolve in the name of love. Unfortunately, my lesson was to understand that sometimes you have to live without love. And sadly, my mother rejected me. So I never had love from my mother, the most crucial thing any child needs in this world. But she herself was married to a man who was a homophobic, opinionated, chauvinistic, racist. And you read all about this in the first chapter of the book. It doesn't dwell on it, but it gives you a background to where I went wrong, where it really troubled me, where my psychological balance was completely disrupted as I grew up under the influence of this man whose inborn nature had been corroded through his own unfortunate past. I mean, I could go on to say in later years he really mellowed and we did reconnect, but that's not really my point at this stage. I'm really just saying how it all started and where things went wrong for me. Then I was fostered out because my mother went into what we used to call them an insane asylum in those days. He completely destroyed her balance. It's very sad. Her story is very sad at that time. She's not in this world right now, but where she is a much better place that I do know. And so I had these years of being in foster care. Those 6 years weren't too bad, between the ages of about 3 to 9. They were strict parents, Christian, and so there was a kind of balance, but there was still lacking any real love there. Father, actually, I did kind of relate to. He was very earthy, very connected to nature, growing things. He was a hunter and all the rest of it. But I didn't really feel that was to do with me. I didn't really feel that connection at all. It seemed almost alien to me. And then my father came back, because the way the law is, if the father or mother wants you back, that's it. The law can do nothing about it. He just came along one day and took me back. And then it really went downhill. The next 10 years, right through those like development years, from about 9 to 20, when I just walked out of home. Those years were a nightmare, because my stepmother, she was fiery, she had her own son, and she, for whatever reason, we disliked each other. We could never really get on. But I felt oppressed and intimidated by her and also my father. And all those emotions are being internalized. And it's doing tremendous damage. You lose all real connection to anything. You become preoccupied with your own thoughts. And those thoughts tend to become very sick in their development. And you start imagining things that are not there. And as we all know, a lot of people end up in crisis. And they need care, psychiatric care and everything else. And I was close to going that way too. But anyway, I left home. And then, as my fortune would have it, a gift was placed before me in the form of an advertisement in a local paper that said, guitar lessons. For whatever reason, whatever impulse it was that touched my head, it said go to that. And I wasn't even interested in music that much, but I went, and then I think my life began to change. Because the first influence for me was the brother of the man that I mentioned earlier, my gift from the stars, who was a remarkable man in his own right. He was very much into metaphysics. He used to subject himself to ridiculous amounts of stress just so he could tap into the psychic realm and sort of, I don't know, just really want to connect with beings on the other side so that he could understand material existence and the nature of the supernatural better than what he did. But unfortunately, in the end, he had a heart attack and died. Before that, he introduced me